David, did I say that properly? David. You will state your name and address, please.
Yes, I'm William McDavid from 10 Sunrise Drive, Rossville. Thank you for the time to speak today. I'm a Georgia State national and a lawful Georgian. I hope I can provide you with some science, logic, and a few questions to consider in light of what is happening regarding COVID-19 and introduce the Georgia Assembly. This is not the Georgia General Assembly. I'm speaking of the civilian government set in motion by the forefathers of this great republic, which is peaceable by all accounts and made up of state nationals and state citizens from all 50 states. These American assemblies are in session in all 50 states and are engaged in the process of protecting Americans. Examples of accomplishments include a crime report of the fraud committed against Americans sent to all military leaders sworn to uphold the Constitution, a peace proclamation that ends the Civil War conflict, which was never done with proper standing, thus allowing foreign control of our government. Mandated decrees relating to the present COVID-19 fraud, explaining the obligations of all principal parties, and legislation to prevent the ownership of living people due to genetic manipulation. I have these documents for your review and understanding. With what information I've learned as a Georgia Assembly member, and from the standpoint of my knowledge as a former biotechnology teacher, I wanted to present my thoughts and a few questions to consider. I would not be here today if I felt this board had negative intentions and did not professionally serve the people of Catoosa County in a good light. So let me begin with the science. There is a process in place whereby a pathogen is isolated, then introduced into a healthy subject, and if the symptoms of the original disease manifest in that healthy subject, then the pathogen is confirmed. This is called Cook's postulate, and this process has been the gold standard. Current legal action has been taken against the CDC and the WHO for not being able to produce an isolated particle. Is this virus real? The late Kerry Mullins, the creator of PCR technology, a machine that I am familiar with, attempted to stop its use as a diagnostic tool. This device amplifies a genetic sample, but after so many cycles, the process generates a high degree of false positives. What is being picked up is not viable, but this testing method is continuing until December. So, is an unreliable test being used intentionally? Effective medicines were shelved instead of used, and we still, to this day, haven't been provided with a plausible explanation. If these medications were provided for people to use during the early stages of their sickness, then there would have never been a pandemic. Was that the reason they were prevented from public use? And why is there but one treatment option for government employees when some states are using monoclonal antibodies? Why are postal employees, illegal immigrants, members of Congress, Pfizer and Moderna executives all given exemption status as it relates to this vaccine? Well, logically, this has nothing to do with a sickness that is far darker than most good people could ever fathom. What is being introduced as a vaccine is, in fact, a medical device used to turn a normal cell into a pathogen creator. And this is a quote from Dr. David E. Martin from the September 15th discussion with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Judy Mikovits. Why are there so many voices speaking out against this vaccine? And have you considered the ultimate question? Is it right to force someone to take a gene therapy that ultimately removes from them that which God provided? This cannot be allowed. This is something that cannot be reversed. It is a permanent change, and no one can tell you with certainty where it will lead. This government, in whatever form, must at all costs protect the people of Catoosa County. We can start by declaring Catoosa County a constitutional county, allowing no statute or authority to supersede the organic constitution. And then we should try to find the answers to these tough questions. Do not promote this gene therapy any longer. And to all those present or watching, look into the American State Assemblies.
Wrap up, please.
Find us at tasa.americanstatenationals.org. Thank you. And I can have those documents. I can leave them.
Jameson, Rayleigh, is that correct? Jameson, Rayleigh, is that correct?
My name is Jameson Brawley, and I live at 75 Boxwood Drive in Ringgold, Georgia. Lived there for 11 years with my wife and kids. We can think of no better place to raise our kids and run my small business. I'm very happy living here. I just want to say that I've never been to one of these meetings before, and just kind of watching you guys and hearing you and seeing your body language is really impressive. To see all these kind of boring things come up, and I can tell you guys really put a lot of heart into it and care a lot about the community, so I appreciate that. Now that I've buttered you up, no, I'm just kidding. I'd like to address the vaccine incentive program that recently passed for county employees. I have a few issues with your program that I hope you'll take to heart tonight and maybe pray about. I want you to know this doesn't come from like a position of politics. I voted for my district reps, Steve and Charlie, without hesitation. It also doesn't come from an anti-vaxxer or pro-vaxxer position. My philosophy on vaccines is that they are by and large safe and healthy, effective, and should be available to all those who need them. I can't be anti-vax if my wife and kids all have vaccines and myself. So my issue with your vote to reward county employees $500 and 40 hours off for taking the vaccine comes from 3 civil rights perspectives, and if these have already been discussed ad nauseum, please forgive me for speaking out of turn. But point number 1 is religion. Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employers discriminating based on religion. So what is discrimination? Discrimination can occur without intent to harm those who end up being disadvantaged by our choices. For example, religious favoritism can be very subtle. If you work in an office that's mostly Christian who have no objections to the vaccine, you might get offered $500 and 40 hours off, but any other Christian who has a different religious perspective is not allowed to take part in such a privilege. So is it discrimination to give a reward to groups with one religious conviction and withhold that reward from those with another religious belief? Point number 2, how does this incentive program affect people with medical issues that prevents them from getting this vaccine? According to the Vaccine Compensation Program at HRSA.gov, 23,000 people have been injured and 1,400 have died from vaccines that have had decades of research and track records, including the flu vaccine. Our tax dollars have paid $4.5 billion to compensate these families. As of September 13th, American medical professionals and caregivers reported over 12,000 deaths directly related to the COVID vaccine. 130 of those were in Georgia. So medical exemptions are real, concern is real. County employees with medical issues shouldn't watch their fellow employees get a week off work plus $500 just because they don't share the same medical issues. Okay, so what if a county employee has already had COVID? Well, the La Jolla Institute for Immunology in California did a study on those who had recovered from COVID, and 8 months since that study started, those patients in the study still show strong antibodies against the virus. So should we offer $500 and 40 hours off to county employees who have already had COVID? Maybe you do, I don't know the details. My third point will address this from a racial perspective. The fact is 60% of blacks in Georgia are unvaccinated, and vaccine hesitancy is higher in the black community than any other racial group. 60% of black employees will not get this prize because of their community norms, and 60% racial discrimination is still discrimination. Racial discrimination, to whatever degree, is not a reputation our friendly little town in North Georgia want during a time of racial division in America. So in closing, will the board be offering these privileges to anyone who produces a religious or medical exemption, a positive test result, or to any minority who simply states they have vaccine hesitancy? If not, that could be a violation of the civil rights law, which states it's unlawful practice for an employer to discriminate against an individual's compensation, terms, conditions, or privileges because of the individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, or to limit, segregate, or classify those employees in any way which would deprive or tend to deprive any individual of perhaps $500 and 40 hours off because of such an individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. I hope you'll reevaluate your perspective, at least on this, and consider the negative optics this might be giving our friendly small town. And again, I want to reiterate, I appreciate all you guys do.
Thank you very much. Before we go to that, I just want to clarify, it's not 40 hours off. 40 hours if you get COVID and you're sick, it's
I
paid.
appreciate that, yeah.
It's not a vacation.
Okay.
It's not 40 hours to go pay your work.
I appreciate you
If
turning
you
that
get COVID, you've been fully vaccinated, you don't have to burn your PTO.
I appreciate you clearing that up.
Thank you. Mr. Matterly.
No, thank you.
Nick Ware, District 4. Got 3 points I want to discuss this evening. First point, the common man's legal definition of discrimination is the act of denying rights, benefits, justice, equitable treatment, or access to facilities available to all others, to an individual or a group of people because of their race, age, gender, handicap, or other defining characteristics. Unvaccinated is a defining characteristic. Your vote last week to a one-time payment of $500 and a week of sick leave to county employees discriminates against the employees that elect not to take the vaccine, whether it be by a personal decision, religious reasons, or whatever they choose as a reason not to put something foreign into their bodies. Bribery is defined by Black's Law Dictionary as the offering, giving, receiving, or soliciting of an item of value to influence the actions of an official or other person in charge of a public or legal duty. You're using the public's money to bribe the employees in charge of our public government duties. I have heard a commissioner say that this is free money, but when I look at the national debt clock and see that the country is $28.8 trillion in debt, with $156 trillion in unfunded liabilities, I guess free money is okay if we're selling off future generations' assets. I mean, I'll be dead and gone, and the responsibility of paying that debt will be on those kids, and their kids, and their kids' kids' shoulders. To bond someone to pay off a debt that they themselves did not incur is nothing more than a form of slavery. There is no such thing as free federal money, Commissioner. Someone is paying for it somewhere or somehow. Second point, navigating the county website for county commissioner videos and agendas is very confusing. I've had many residents ask me how they can locate this information. Is this part of an elusive means to hide information, or does this information just rank low in the county's list of transparency items? With the county removing the meetings from Facebook, it has put insulation between the residents and the information. If this was the goal of the chairman, I'd like to honor you with saying great job. This is an easy fix, so if you're not trying to suppress information, let's see how long it takes to fix it. Third point. Chairman Henry, in your meeting on September the 9th, you said, quote, freedom of speech only works one way, don't it? I like that, end quote. After a citizen spoke at this podium, one which you, Chairman Henry, called a bald-faced liar as he was speaking at this podium on an earlier date. You used your power to have him escorted out for his speech, one that you said broke the rules, which it did not. A citizen that you proceeded to slander on the local public TV show, UCTV, and have another commissioner, Jeff Long, to join in on the kick fest and bring out the personal life of the individual and his disabled son. You, Chairman Henry, fail on all accounts to understanding freedom of speech. Your authoritative behavior and dictator mindset has you all mixed up. You've done everything possible to control the freedom of speech in your room, your county, your board, and with your employees. Here's some examples. 1, you limited the speech in this setting to a person having to sign a piece of paper, your rules, to obtaining the freedom to speak at a meeting. 2, you moved the speaking time from the front of the agenda to the end of the agenda. This prohibiting anyone from speaking on any agenda items prior to those agenda items being voted on by the board. 3, you made an example of a fellow citizen and had them thrown out of the boardroom and then lied about them breaking the rules that you set. You, sir, need to recalibrate your mind before you can even comprehend what freedom of speech truly means. Take off the authoritarian lenses and put on some Ben Franklin spectacles so you can see clearly through the lens of liberty. Unless you're good with the authoritarian lenses, And you look forward to the day that all citizens say, "All hail King Henry of Catoosa County." Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that. We're good, George.
Very truthful.
Tommy? You don't have any commissioner comments, I'd like a motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.